Welcome to the National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. And do we have a power-packed show today? We are loaded with guests and content. You know, all the things that are going on in the world of sports right now, especially when it comes to basketball. And if you're watching the NHL, it's all good, man. Seeing the fans back in the stands again just makes me really excited about the upcoming fall when we could see the college kids back at the stadiums and the NFL fans back at all the facilities again, rooting for their favorite teams. I can't wait to see that, man. All good, right? All right. You know, before we get into the story of the day, and I think you know who the story of the day is, it's Carl Nassib, the defensive end from the Las Vegas Raiders, coming out that he is gay, the first active gay member in the National Football League on a team. And I'll get to that here in a second. But I do want to say this about all the heat that you're seeing on social media, on a lot of the sports talk shows, the cable sports shows, and this all goes around Ben Simmons. Oh my God, we got to fix this guy. We you know what? Maybe a sports psychologist could fix this. What's the other one? Oh, yeah, you know, if he practices the right way. Okay. Let me put it out there for you. I'll give you an example, too. Lamar Jackson, a couple of years ago, I said that guy'd be out of the NFL in 5 years. I did. You know why? I didn't think he would work on his game. I did not think he had the intangibles to get better, because once you get to the NFL, the chances of you actually getting better and better and better like Tom Brady, you don't really see that. Usually when you see a player, it's who he is. And what we've seen over the last handful of years with Ben Simmons, it's who he is. He's not gotten better. The guy's actually gotten worse. He's not gotten better. You know why? He doesn't work at his craft. He doesn't want to get better. That's an intangible inside of your heart on you knowing that you have a deficiency that stops your team from winning. Lamar Jackson did the most important thing that he possibly could do. You know what that was? He knew that he had to get better in the passing game. So what did he do? He improved in the passing game. Led the NFL in touchdown passes a couple of years ago. Made sure that everyone knew he was constantly working. Remember, he'd wear those T-shirts that said, "No one cares." Ben Simmons doesn't have that mentality. Do I think Ben Simmons will ever get better? Ben Simmons is who he is. That zebra's not going to change his stripes. You're either going to have to deal with him. Here, I said this yesterday. That dude, if he's your number two, you'll always be number two in the Eastern Conference. If he's your number three, you'll win the title. You need a number two guy. Okay? And if he's somebody like a Draymond Green, okay, he is one of the top defenders in the NBA. You can't take that away from him. But, dude, when it comes down to crunch time, I can't count on you on the free throw stripe. I can't count on you to get the rock to somebody. I can't even count on you to get a layup. I got a problem with that. I mean, it sounds to me like you lack some guts and some onions, too. This comes down to who you are as an athlete. How many times have we asked athletes this question? You know, I can't tell. The intangible inside that makes you a champion cannot be evaluated at an NFL combine or at an NBA draft. It can't be. Because if that was the case, Tom Brady would have been the most recruited and the most evaluated quarterback in history. Have you ever seen that picture and that video that he posts all the time when the NFL combines come around in the draft, and he looks like some just quarterback prospect that you just shake your head and go, that guy will never play in the league. Well, 7 Super Bowls later, he made himself into that guy. Because you can't evaluate that. You can't put that intangible on a scale and go, okay, yeah, he's going to be this. That's why that position flops all the time. Because the one intangible that you need to have. Think about this for a second, too, the NFL great quarterbacks. Peyton Manning. You think that guy's truly a great athlete? I mean, that guy couldn't jump over a stack of quarters. Same thing with Brady. Those two are great? Like athletes? Come on, man. Think Roethlisberger, Rivers, any of the guys that we've seen. Hey, Aaron Rodgers, Steve Young, fantastic. Lamar Jackson, fantastic. But the true greats are the ones that aren't the ones that take off and leave the pocket. These are guys that sit back and have to cerebrally beat you. They beat you with their brain. They beat you with their desire and their heart. How do you think they get better like that? Simmons is the same dude. I've been listening to all these shows go. I'm like, well, you can't get rid of him. You can't get rid of him because you can't get the value for him. All the things that you invested in him, you'll never get that back. And here's a little note here for the Sixers. And by the way, you all know I'm friends with Doc Rivers. The more publicly that you go out and bash that guy, you're going to turn yourself into the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles went on some sort of barnstorming tour where they trashed Carson Wentz for months. And when I saw that there was an open quarterback position, let me give you an example of that. Brian Flores was asked a question like a month after the season ended about Tua Tagovailoa being the starting quarterback. You know what he said? He's our guy, and there's no question about it. We're going forward. He's our number one guy. You know why they did that? Just in case that they were going to move him potentially to the Texans to try to get Deshaun Watson. You had at least put the impression out there that you believed he was a franchise quarterback. When you start talking about competition, the Eagles were never going to get a number one for Carson Wentz. Never. No one offered one, too. You're in a competition with Jalen Hurts. Did you see the kid play last year? I'm not sure about Hurts. Why would you devalue an asset that you may want to move? Well, his free throw shooting sucks. And, we've got to do a lot of work. You've had him a handful of years. Now, all of a sudden, we're coming to the rescue here to try to rescue his shot, his confidence. Dude, you're a pro sports athlete. Confidence should be the least thing you work on. Holy cow. A shrink and a shot doctor. That's ridiculous. I don't want that on my team. Hey, man, if the guy's willing to work and willing to put the time in, I'll work with anybody. But if you're not willing to be a star, hey, man, I can't help you. That's somebody I don't want on my team. That's somebody I don't want in my locker room because I won't be able to count on you when the time I need to count on you. That's late in games with 2 minutes. Sorry-ass conversations. And by the way, organizations and coaches, like Jordan says, they don't win championships. Players win it. Go listen to Jordan's induction speech into the Hall of Fame. He used to always get on Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf and say this, hey, man, organizations, they can bring the players in and they can do all they want when it comes to building a roster. Players got to go out and play. Players got to go out and play. This is on players. Player accountability, dude. Every time I hear people talking to me about Brad Stevens not being a good coach up in Boston. Okay, well, when you have Kyrie Irving and you're talking about a guy that you're not even sure will make it to the arena every day, that's a guy I want to coach either, man. I would take a bunch of dudes that want to be there, want to play hard, and want to put everything on the line over guys who are the super talented. Look at the Nets now. They're home. You got James Harden, who ate his way out of Houston. You got, burner account KD. And Kyrie Irving, you're not even sure what's up. You think that really is going to win? Hey, just because you put a big three together, it's funny, isn't it? Chemistry matters. Look at that big three. That big three was a failure, just like the Barkley and Pippen big three and Drexler in Houston a couple years back. Remember they tried to put that whole dynamic together in Houston? That was the original big three. That thing fell on its ear. It's because you put talented people together. By the way, remember the dream team that Joe Banner and all them dudes in Philly put together with Nnamdi Asomugha and them guys? What was it, 1 year, 9-7? After that, man, it was all over the place. They had to end up firing Andy Reid and everybody in the organization for that. Chemistry matters. It's stupid conversations. Dude, there's guys that will drag their team across the finish line. Brady's one of them dudes. Jordan's one of them guys. To some extent, maybe even Peyton Manning. There's guys that you see that are just the greatest players in the history of a sport, and they just refuse to lose. It's not about statistics. I'll tell you who has a little bit of that in my book. Kawhi Leonard. You can say whatever you want about Kawhi. You send him out of San Antonio up to Toronto. You thought you were going to exile him, and he ends up leading a team to a championship. Think about how close that thing was, too. Sixers are a rim job, and I say that with respect, on going to the NBA Finals. That could have been them winning the NBA championship instead of Toronto that year. It's how close everything is when it comes to being a champion. It's a rollout. It's a fumble. It's a home run. It's an error. The difference between being good and spectacular is that. Okay? Hey, it's one thing to make it to the NBA or to make it to the NFL. It's another thing to sit there and go like this. Well, what do I do to get to the next level? Come on, man. All right. Let's move on here. By the way, we got a packed show for you. Arash Markazi, who covers the Los Angeles Chargers and the Rams for the Mightier 1090 in Southern California, will join us at the bottom of the hour. Also, at the top of the hour, 5 o'clock Eastern, we will talk to our friend Chris Landy, get his thoughts on all the rosters, who he likes going into the July camps. We'll get his spin on all that. And Dave Lapham, he covers the Cincinnati Bengals. I know. Watch this. Bengals? Sills? Hey, dude, I think they're one of the surprise teams in the upcoming 2021 season. I love this guy, Joe Burrow. And we will talk to our friend Dave Lapham, who is a former Bengal himself. That'll be in hour number 2. All right, let's get into the story of the day here. And that is Carl Nassib. You know, it's funny. I was asked a question going into the show. How do you think that's going to take and land with players that have to play against this player that are on the Raider team and the guys that are in the league? And again, just to reset real quick here, yesterday, Carl Nassib came out as a gay, and he's the only gay active NFL player in league history. You want to know what my response was? And I'll get to what we were talking about prior to going on the air. Do you know what my response was initially? Watch this. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not in that locker room to know your politics. I'm not in that locker room to know your religion. I'm not in that locker room to know your sexuality. I could care less. I just want to know if you could play and we can win. I mean, sitting around talking about it brings up things that doesn't need to be in an NFL locker room. Now, watch this. Great. Good for him. Wonderful. Has no bearing on my life whatsoever. But see, and I'm going to tell you how it's going to, though. Because initially, it's the perfect world. You know why? Every guy in that league is going to do this. Hey, good. Okay. Somebody find. Watch this. You know what people are saying in this? Do you know what players are saying right now in the league? Hey, finally, somebody had the onions to do this. Finally, somebody had the onions to come out and say they were gay. Hey, good for you, man. He's a pretty good player, too. Okay. What do you want from me now? Okay. How does this affect me? Oh, I'll tell you how it's going to affect me. Because what you're going to have is you're going to have lame stream media making a fiasco out of this story instead of treating it with respect. Okay? You know what's going to happen here. It is going to be, when Michael Sam was drafted by the Rams in the 7th round, Michael Sam is the most famous 7th round draft choice I've ever seen in NFL draft history. Okay? They covered that, and everyone went like this. Come on, man. And everyone in the league was saying this under their breath, and I'm going to say it. They were doing this. Don't turn this thing into a freak show. Let the kid make the team. Let's see if the kid has the wheels to make the team. Okay? Don't don't derail the guy's opportunity. I knew it would derail his opportunity. I was talking to the guys before we went on the air. Yeah, how can he be the only SEC Defensive Player of the Year since they've been handing that award out not to be in the league? Was the league ready for a homosexual player? I don't know. Maybe not. But it's awful, awful coincidence that he's the only guy. Weird. Then the league will start doing this. And I get this. The Raiders jumped out in front of it. We're very happy about it. That doesn't shock me. That organization has done things. The first black African-American coach in Art Shell, the first executive with Amy Trask. There's no that franchise has been doing that stuff forever. I mean, Tom Flores, the first true minority ever to win a Super Bowl. He won 2 of them. Got his justice this year when he got into the Hall of Fame. Okay, the Raider organization having an active gay player on their team, it's not a surprise. The Raiders are notorious for getting out in front of social issues and making a stance on it, which that's the Raider way. Al Davis is a maverick for doing that kind of stuff. So watch this. All great Raiders. All good. I saw the NFL statement. But what will happen is they will start bastardizing this story. Well, you know, there's some people in the locker room that don't want to play with gay players. Okay, who said that? And you know what you're going to start getting? Anonymous sources are saying that there's players inside the organization because you know how the media lies. And before you know it, you've got distractions in your locker room. And they're distractions because you know why? Somebody did a solid for a community that finally has a role model that people can look to and go, this guy here has the onions. By the way, I love his conviction that he would come out and say that. Good for him, man. But what you have to do is you have to get out in front of these people and say, when you hear stuff like that, you have to be a leader in the locker room now saying, there's nobody in this locker room that has a problem with me being gay. Nobody. He's got to get out in front of it. He can't let these wild stories go because it'll derail everything he's trying to accomplish. Advertisers. Hey, why do you think certain advertisers were complaining to the NFL just about the Colin Kaepernick stuff? Why don't you think you see the kneeling anymore? Because people like FedEx and all these conservative companies, they were starting to get heat from all the people that were out there saying, hey, look, man, we're getting a lot of heat for this Kaepernick stuff. Because why? The majority of the NFL fans and football fans in general, you think they're California or New York? The football fan is middle America and the South. They're Trump's base. That's the football fan. That's some guy in California or New York. They are the fans in middle America. Conservatives mostly. And in the South. You start barking anything that turns that money machine upside down, you're going to get a call on Park Avenue. Now, you know what the NFL is going to do? This is the perfect time for having this. You know why? Because the NFL can get out in front of it in the offseason. They can work it here. They can control it here. And instead of doing it in the middle of a season, actually, this was smart by Carl Nassib. Do it now before training camp. Okay? Don't do it right before a football game or in the middle of the year because then you're going to create all kinds of issues. And I swear to you, you know, and as I get back to me being asked how this will affect players don't care. I swear to God, yesterday when I heard the story, I went, oh, I don't really care. No, I mean that when I say I don't really care, I don't care that it has no effect on my locker room and me as a football player inside one of those locker rooms. Man, I got enough issues to make the roster myself. You think I care what's going on in your life? I think people have this crazy notion that players are sitting around going, well, that guy's Republican. No, that guy's independent. Oh, did you hear what that guy said? He was at a rally for the Democrats. You think people do that in the locker room? You know what people are doing? Man, I hope I make the team, man. Man, that guy's getting more reps than me. You see the depth chart? I was second team, man. Coach moved me down because of that practice I had. Nobody's talking about, hey, you see Carl, man? You see his boyfriend? Nobody talks like that in the locker room. You talk like that in the offseason, but right now as you're getting ready for training camp, dude, man, I wonder where I'm going to land on the depth chart, man. I hope if I'm third team, I'll never make this team. That means I'm going to have to do something at special teams. What do you think, Carl? Yeah, man. I saw myself on say, when you're talking to Carl Nassib in the locker room, you're going to be talking about, hey, did you get that play, man, on what we're going to be doing against the Chiefs? Do we do that stunt and that twist? Do you come underneath or do I go around you? Am I supposed to pull the offensive guard? What do you think you're talking about in the locker room? Idiots in the media talk about this stuff. Okay? The idiots that are out there will be adding this in. What, seriously, you think me and him sitting in a defensive line meeting when we're watching game film, yeah, man, you see what the Chiefs are doing? That guy's sitting back. He's going to do a trap, and they're going to drop that guard down on you, and they're going to move him around and try to get up on the offensive plane into the second plane here and try to get that linebacker scraping across. Oh, by the way, man, I met your boyfriend. I've never in a million years heard anybody even talk about anybody's wife. Maybe at lunch. You're not even going to talk about that stuff on an airplane flying home. Man, I really do think that people think that this is a bigger story for the players than it really is. It's not. But what will happen, it'll be turned into a freak show. And media outlets like MSNBC and CNN, and to some extent Fox, will turn it into a freak show. And that's when the message may get derailed. That's when you may have problems in the building. So to me, it's a non-story on the 22nd of June. Watch what happens as we move this story along and we try to build more content off this story, how this thing lands. We'll see. All right. The Rams, I think, are going to be one of those teams to watch this year. I happen to think also the Chargers are going to be one of those teams to watch. We had the general manager of the Chargers on a couple weeks ago. Tom Telesco is excited as all get out. So we're going to talk to our friend Arash Markazi and get his spin on those two Los Angeles teams. He's from the mightier 1090. We'll hit him up next right here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. So George Kittle of the 49ers got asked the question, how come you didn't invite Tebow to Tight End University? He and Greg Olson, who just retired, are hosting this like university, and there's a bunch of the superstar tight ends that are going to all get together. And he was asked, George Kittle, why he didn't invite Tebow. And his comment was, sorry, man, we didn't have enough room. And plus, I don't invite third teamers. That's great. That is a great comment, man. That's exactly how that – by the way, you hear what George Kittle of the 49ers and how he's doing? That's exactly how everybody in the league looks at Tebow. The only people that look at Tebow in a higher regard, once again, is the media and maybe Urban Meyer. Nobody in the league respects the guy as a tight end. And get this, that's not in any way throwing shade on Tebow as a man. We're not talking about that. There's two different things here. How can I give Tim Tebow respect when he's never played the position? The only time Tim Tebow's actually played tight end is right now in his life, in his football life. That guy hasn't built up enough equity, enough assets for me to sit here and go, yeah, let me talk to him. I won't even refer to him as a tight end. Anyone that asks me, Dan, what do you make of the story? I go, well, he hasn't proven he's even a tight end yet, let alone try to get a roster spot. By the way, Arash Markazi from the Mightier 1090 will join us. We're going to talk about the LA NFL teams here in a second. So to sit here and talk about like Tebow as a tight end, he hasn't even proven to the Jags yet and people in that locker room whether or not he's truly a tight end that can make a difference on a roster or help a team win a ball game. Actually, the only thing he's proven to this date as a Jag is that he could sell tickets, that he could sell merchandise. All the things that don't matter inside the hash marks. Those are the people that you look at and you go like this. Okay, well, this guy's a really good person for the company, and he's a really good company guy. But can he play? You know how many times you see radio stations or you see people hire people just to hire them? And because they bring a big name or they have a big social media following, and you assume that guy is just going to fit in like a glove. And then all of a sudden you realize there's not really much there. Not a lot of talent to what we're looking to do. You know, probably there's a guy on that Jaguars team right now. There is probably a guy sitting there that's a third-team tight end that's better than him. But the organization's going to go like this. Hey, if there's ties, we're going to go with Tim Tebow. Because Tebow sells the merchandise. Why do you think he was a Met for all them years? Guy couldn't hit his body weight. I mean, I don't even know how he made those all-star. He made an all-star game or something like that. One of the minor league all-star games. Hitting like 204. I'm like, dude, I think he's 235. Now he's like 245. He's all bowed up because, he's trying out for tight end. Tim Tebow is the George Plimpton of the modern-day athlete. Do you know who George Plimpton is? George Plimpton was a sports writer who wrote books back in the day. And he would go around like to Major League Baseball and want to pitch in a Major League game. He actually got into an NFL football game with the Lions. There was a book called Paper Lion. And he actually did that. It was really weird. He had an opportunity to do that. And he went around doing all this. but he was a sports writer. He never pretended to be an athlete, but he wanted to write from experience. That's what Tebow is. Tebow's a great college athlete. Great. But, dude, man, if you really think that, you're crazy. All right. One of my friends that is a staple in Southern California. I love going to him when we talk some Chargers and Rams. My friend Arash Markazi is with us now from the Mightier 1090. How you doing, Arash?
I'm good, Dan. Good to see you.
You bet, man. So, hey, how's it being a big media mogul now? You got a radio show, you're writing now, right? Right? The morning column?
Exactly. I'm just trying to follow in your footsteps, my friend. I am here in San Diego this week for the Dodgers-Padres series. So the Dodgers lost last night. They're going at it again tonight, and then we got a game tomorrow, and then I'll be back in Los Angeles for games 3 and 4 of the Clippers-Suns.
I watched that last night, man.
Yeah.
Really electric. The crowd was really cool last night. All right, let me get into the Rams here. Boy, I'm hearing a lot of love fest coming out of Sean McVay. And here, let me give it. Oh, my God. I've never seen. Wow, man. Unbelievable. And it almost comes off like he's going so overboard, and people are now doing this. Are you throwing shade at Jared Goff in any way? How are you looking at this relationship forming?
So that was the one thing he had to stress, because he was like way over the top. In the first event that they had at SoFi, he was like, I am the happiest man in the world. I mean, he had a man crush on Matthew Stafford, like to the point where we wondered if this was a knock at Jared Goff. And then he returned and talked to the media again. He said, no, this is not a knock at Goff. But listen, there's no doubt that relationship went south pretty quickly last season. I mean, it was so clear that Goff was not the future quarterback. Now, is Matthew Stafford as good as we're hearing? We have no idea. I mean, obviously, we have not seen him practice yet. We'll see during camp and preseason. But, I mean, Sean McVay is having a public love fest with his new quarterback right now.
Absolutely. And Arash, I'd love that you're trying to build confidence, especially coming from an organization where I think like he had 1,000-yard rusher, and I think that was Reggie Bush 1 billion years ago. I mean, and I've always said this about Matt Stafford. I think he is a superstar player that was unfortunately in a very bad organization. He's going to have 10 primetime games.
Yeah.
This could change the narrative, right, of how people see him. With the addition of Sean McVay around him, people could change the narrative if this guy comes in here and takes that team back to a Super Bowl.
100%. I mean, here's the thing you can at least say about Sean McVay. I mean, he puts his quarterback in a position to succeed with his play calling. I mean, when you look at the quarterback Jared Goff was with Jeff Fisher, and then the quarterback he was with Sean McVay, at the very least, I do expect Matthew Stafford to have a very good first season. Now, he needs help, So, I mean, I don't think enough has been talked about, Dan, about the number of players that the Rams did lose. I mean, they are a very good team. They are a Super Bowl contender. You go to Vegas, they are a top 5 pick, but they did lose a lot of really quality players. So I do think Matthew Stafford is going to have to play basically as good as Sean McVay's talking him up, because, top to bottom, depth-wise, I don't know if they're as good as they were.
How about this too, Arash? When you look at Sean McVay, there's 3 coaches that I would think that are his contemporaries. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Matt LaFleur up in Green Bay, and also Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. And when you see what those guys have at the quarterback position, and no disrespect or throwing any shade at Jared Goff, because like you said, this was like a renaissance project. I mean, he took a guy that was just, in my opinion, I thought he was on his way out of the league, and he turned him into a Super Bowl NFC champion quarterback. I mean, but do you think there's pressure on him also to get that quarterback position right, because he sees what his contemporaries, there's rivalries everywhere in sports.
Yeah.
There's rivalries also in coaches.
Oh, well, no doubt about it. And you talk about the coaches that that is a competition too. When you talk about Cliff Kingsbury and some of his contemporaries, they talk amongst each other. And I do think a part of him is like, listen, again, when they're having a few beers, right, Dan, this is now public conversation. You're doing what you're doing with that quarterback. Look at the things I'm working with. I mean, they're not that good. So now he does not have that excuse, Dan. He does have Stafford. He is a quality quarterback. At the very least, if there's anything that Sean McVay had in his dream playbook that he could not run with Jared Goff, he can run those plays now. He can run, like you talk about the stuff he could not do with Goff. He can do that now.
Absolutely. Before I get to the Chargers here, your thoughts, though, you mentioned it a couple minutes ago. Are they a Super Bowl contender? The 2021 Rams roster will be what at the end of the year? If no catastrophic injuries happen on that roster, they'll be what in your eyes?
I think 10-7. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I do think, depending on where the rest of the league is at and the conference is at, maybe they sneak into the playoffs, but they're not a very deep team, Dan. And unfortunately, I mean, if someone goes down, I mean, certainly, God forbid the quarterback goes down, they are not a deep team. So that's my one concern with them. The one thing that they will have, Dan, and maybe the Chargers may have this as well, again, they are moving into SoFi Stadium, that brand new $5 billion facility. So they don't have to worry about not having a packed house. All of those games will be sold out. The hope is, obviously, the majority of those fans are cheering for the home team, but that will help them a ton. I think being at the Coliseum was hard. Being in a stadium with no fans was hard. Being at SoFi Stadium now, packed house, that will help them. Absolutely.
Let's get over to the Chargers. We had Tom Telesco on with us a couple days ago, and you could tell that there's an energy. And I said this last year, Arash, how Justin Herbert got into the starting lineup. Guys were telling me he's standing there on the sidelines and not really, he's got a chalkboard in his hand, he's writing, and that unfortunate situation because of the punctured lung with Tyrod Taylor, they go to him like 30 minutes before the game. Hey, you're starting. This guy almost beats the Chiefs. He throws for over 350 yards. And I did do this. Wow. This kid's better than I thought he was. My boy Mario Cristobal texts me. He goes, I told you this kid's real. I mean, there's real energy in with the Chargers right now. They got a roster, man.
They got so lucky, Dan, in terms of, I mean, they needed a superstar. No one's talking about the Chargers in Los Angeles, so they lucked into a franchise quarterback. And I joked about two things at that moment. I said they got to sneak something to the trainer. Again, you don't want to have that happen, but who knows when Justin Herbert plays? If that does not happen, Dan, we don't know when Justin Herbert plays. And then my second thought was, Coach Lynn, you've had an entire training camp. You couldn't see what we saw in one game. Justin Herbert is a future superstar. I mean, but again, they looked into a franchise quarterback. Again, they are much like the Rams, first season in a packed SoFi Stadium. Once again, Dan, I fully expect a lot of those fans to cheer for the opposing team. But in Los Angeles, if you are a superstar, whether you're LeBron James or Anthony Davis or Mookie Betts or whatnot, you move the needle. Justin Herbert has that little something to move the needle, being a superstar here.
We just got through talking about young coaches. Brandon Staley now is the head coach of the Chargers here. Because I went like this when somebody goes, here the new head coach of the Chargers is. I had to look it up.
No.
I had to look his name up. I'm like, okay, I've never really heard of him. I don't really know who he is. Okay. And then I started thinking how Nick Sirianni got hired. He was a former Charger, wide receiver coach or something. And all these young guys, is this a new wave now we're looking at? Instead of those big profile head coaches, we're looking at offense or young defensive-minded guys to take over these organizations.
Exactly. But you know what? It's also that Sean McVay touch. If you're at some point connected with Sean McVay, you look at Matt LaFleur was the offensive coordinator, worked with Sean McVay. Cliff Kingsbury was not technically like an assistant, but for a while, for a few months there, he was talking to Sean McVay. In fact, the Cardinals famously put that in their press release, Cliff Kingsbury, who's a good friend of Sean McVay. Like if you're at some point connected to McVay, but Brandon Staley was a revelation as the defensive coordinator. Like all the players on that team talked about how great he is. So we'll see, but there is that sort of, new wave of coaches, that young coach who brings a new thought process in. And from the guys I talked to, they are very excited about Brandon.
Two last questions for you here, Arash. Let me throw this at you. I just asked you the question about the Rams. What will they be? No catastrophic injuries moving forward in 2021. What do you see? And by the way, if you look at both of these teams, Rams and Chargers, look at the divisions they're in. I mean, the NFC West may be the toughest division in all of football, and the AFC West is right there as well. I mean, What will the Chargers be? No catastrophic injuries at the end of the year to you.
So I'm going to hedge my bet here. You know, I do like them perhaps to be on the high end, a 10-7 team if Justin Herbert plays well. And Dan, as you know, someone who's covered a ton of Chargers games, this team once again continues to find a way to lose games that they should win. So if they find a way to flip the script and win those games, maybe they're 10-7. If not, they're 7-10. But the good thing about them, they are a good young team with a good young coach. The future, perhaps, we've talked about this before, looks bright. They have to find a way to win those close games. I mean, they found new and magnificent and miraculous ways to lose games. I mean, week in and week out, I felt so bad for that team because they tried, and then at the end of the game, they found a way to lose. But on the high end, Dan, I'm going to go 10-7 again with the Chargers.
How about this? You know, we were talking relocation back in the day with the Chargers and with the Rams moving in there. You know, it's funny. I never, ever had a problem saying Los Angeles Rams from day one.
Yeah.
But there's still people that I watch on TV that still say San Diego Chargers, and I'm not sure that's ever going to leave. Because of the new stadium, SoFi, you think that's going to kind of bring everybody kind of back into the room now where you're going to start today building a true fan base because you're going to be in your own building?
That will help them, Dan, but here's the problem. You know, you did not have a problem saying the Los Angeles Rams. Why? Because the Los Angeles Rams were a thing for 50 years. They moved to St. Louis, had some success there, but then they moved back to Los Angeles. The San Diego Chargers were here in San Diego for 50 years, you know, so you can't just flip the script and say, oh, we are Los Angeles' team. Unfortunately for them, nobody wanted them in Los Angeles. They did want a team back, I thought. They wanted the Raiders. Perhaps. Exactly. The Chargers were a team, if you really cared about the Chargers, Dan, and I made that, I got here with the train. It's a beautiful train ride. It drops you off right there. You could have done the drive. Nobody in Los Angeles who cared about the Chargers wanted them to move to Los Angeles. Like, even if you were a Chargers fan, you enjoyed making that drive, hopping on that train to San Diego. So we felt bad. Again, I'm from Los Angeles. I've spent my entire life there. Like, I felt bad that we took the Chargers. I mean, that would be like the Padres coming to Los Angeles. Nobody wants the Padres in Los Angeles. No disrespect to them, but if we want to see the Padres game, I'll do what I've done this week. I'll hop on the train, have a great time here in San Diego, and then come back home. They will, in time, build a fan base, Dan, but it's a little bit like the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers have been here in Los Angeles for 35 years, and they're still not the heart and soul of Los Angeles, you know?
Absolutely. Finally here, SoFi Stadium. Give me just a little bit on it because I hear it's just state of the art, and it is where the Super Bowl is going to be also this year. So the number one event is going to be in Los Angeles, and then you got the Olympics coming around the corner too. Talk about SoFi a little bit.
It's unlike anything you've ever seen. The scoreboard is like this circular hoculus, which, again, there's big scoreboards around the world. There's nothing like this. It's a $5 billion facility. So, I mean, so when you come to see it, the majority of it is below ground. So when you walk in, it'll amaze you how big it is. The translucent roof. It just, from the beginning, when you walk in, it's unlike any other stadium. In Las Vegas, it's fantastic, but I can compare it to Cowboy Stadium as something else. SoFi Stadium, Dan, I've never seen anything like it. They really did a fantastic job. And as you mentioned, home of the Super Bowl this year, World Cup, Olympics, College Football Championship, like all these big events are finally going to come to Los Angeles.
Absolutely. Arash, I can't tell you how I appreciate you doing this. Continued success. I root for you. You're one of the good guys, and I love you to death. Don't forget, go to his Twitter page. You want to see some of the hottest chicks. And by the way, I also got to say this to you, too. Keep up with the weight, man.
Thank you.
Look great. You look real good. Thank you, Arash.
Thanks, Dan. I'll talk to you soon.
You got it. My friend Arash Markazi, man, absolutely covers and one of the most plugged-in guys there is. All right, top of the hour, we're going to talk to Chris Landry, get his thoughts on all of the rosters as we get ready for the July camps. And next, Tom Brady, man. That guy is a true G. And I'll tell you why next here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
and keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo, Chris Landry from Landry Football at the top of the hour. This story going around with Tom Brady, I guess he's going to be on uninterrupted. I think that airs on Fridays. It's The Shop. I think that airs on Fridays, if I'm not mistaken. So I watch this. He's made me now want to watch that episode with him in it because, you know, they kind of released, and it was a really great tease. That clip was a great tease, and it was Brady being asked the question, like, you know, when he was going around looking for teams, when he decided that he was going to leave New England, you know, where was, you know, his destination that he wanted to maybe best suited for his ability. And I heard the Bears were one of the teams, the Raiders kind of kicked tires. The 49ers were kicking tires. John Lynch even came out, the general manager of the 49ers, and said they kind of entertained it for a week. And then they stuck with Jimmy. And in the process, Garoppolo got hurt last year. And that's probably really rubbed John Lynch the wrong way, and why they went after Trey Lance in the draft is because Garoppolo, once again, got hurt. And I've said this before to you about Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is a heck of a football player. He's 22-8 as a starting quarterback. The only problem is, since he's been a starting quarterback in San Francisco, he's missed 53% of his football games. You can't build a game plan. You can't build a season. You can't build a roster around that. It's unreliable. Now, I'm not talking about his play. And by the way, sometimes in games, we've seen him overthrow plays, especially in Super Bowls, right? The last Super Bowl, this guy, he connects on that one throw. In my opinion, they beat the Chiefs. That team, I thought, was better than the Chiefs. I just thought that Mahomes played better in the fourth than Jimmy Garoppolo did. I didn't think Jimmy played great in the fourth. I didn't really think Jimmy played great at all in that game. Well, maybe the first half. Okay, so Brady's being asked, and by the way, I tweeted out a whole bunch of stuff on two teams, and two teams did offer Tom Brady a contract. The other team was the Chargers. The Chargers offered Tom Brady $30 million a year, and the Buccaneers offered the same. And if you looked at the rosters, they're pretty comparable. They were pretty comparable. And the Chargers had just moved off of Phillip Rivers, and they were getting ready to make that move, and they basically were looking at it going like this, okay, let's bring Tom in. They were the first team, and Tom Telesco was the first team to jump out there and offer Tom Brady. Then the Buccaneers did with Jason Light, the general manager, and Bruce Arians. They had to, come to the grips that they were not going to stick with Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. He did throw for 5,000 yards, but you were not going to bring that guy back because he was too reckless with the ball. And when you're in a risk it, to get the biscuit kind of offense, that's Bruce Arians' motto. Okay? You don't risk it, you don't get the biscuit. That's just not going to cut it when you're turning the ball over. So they had to come to the grips that they were going to move on, and they did. That's how Brady lands there. He lands in Tampa because, quite frankly, get this, there were really only two teams that were putting contracts on the table. Because you know why? Again, I get he's the GOAT. And maybe in hindsight, Brady proved all those other teams. Because you understand something. Brady's like Jordan. You can't think that Brady's not pissed that he didn't have more people wanting him when he decided to leave New England. There's only two teams that we know of that put a contract on the table, and a team told Brady that they were sticking with the guy they had over him. That's why Brady fires back. You're sticking with that MFer? You're kidding me. Over me? That's fuel. That's fuel for that guy. You know it is. He took that as a public insult when it started getting around that there was only two teams that offered him a contract. How many people thought that you at least have half the league? I didn't think that because you're talking about, again, look, Brady has knocked down all kinds of barriers and all kinds of myths when it comes to age. He's completely done that. But how many people believe that there's another Tom Brady that's going to knock down Father Time the way he's knocked him down? Tom Brady has fought Father Time for 21 years and beat him. Father Time eventually is going to get in the room, and he's going to get into the ring, and he's going to get him with a right hand. It's just a matter of time. Nobody calls their own shots. When John Elway called it a career after he won that final Super Bowl, John Elway wanted to continue to play, but you know what and why he couldn't? There wasn't enough recovery time after that season, and John couldn't get his body in shape because it gone through so much, and he was 39 years old. Back then you could destroy the quarterbacks, and you could plaster them all over the place. And he didn't have the time to get his body back in shape. It was more of a physical thing. That's what eventually is going to take Brady down. As you get older in the league and as you get as an older player, you become smarter. You read things differently on the field. You see things. But in that same process, your body gets destroyed. It starts to deteriorate. When you're a football player, you live in dog years, okay? Especially when you're in the NFL. And you have to take into account the 4 years or 5 years of college ball, the 4 years of high school ball, then the bitty football, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it was. That was, for me, 4 years. I snuck in. You're talking 25 years of football. I played 7 years of professional football, 5 years in college, 4 years in high school, 4 years in bitty football. You're talking a long time, man. Eventually, and look at Brady. Brady's played 21 years of football in the NFL. 4 years in college. I mean, you're 25 years right there. This guy's played 30 years of football, over 30 years. You don't think his body, and I've told you this is exactly what happens when you're an NFL guy. It's this right here. It's not the catastrophic injuries that takes you out. It's the constant tapping on your knees, your elbow. Eventually, the head of the nail falls off, which is your kneecap, your shoulder, your wrist, anything. It's just the war of attrition wearing you out. And Brady's been able to do it. And what made Brady more pissed off than anything is that he had weathered all of that. And to see only 2 teams offer him a contract, that's more fuel. Now you're looking at it. And by the way, if Tom Brady left the Buccaneers, how many teams would be after Tom Brady now? 2? 44? It's not because it's Tom Brady. It's because it's 44-year-old Tom Brady. Tom Brady, 34, there wouldn't be a team in the league, including the Packers, that would want to move off Aaron Rodgers and move into, hey, watch this. If Tom Brady was 37, the same age as Aaron Rodgers, you think the Packers would move off Aaron Rodgers and sign Brady? I do. I do. To get out from that, and to get out from that attitude, I'd want out from that attitude. That's the thing. When you see the difference in how Brady goes about his business versus how these other guys go about their business, that's why, man, when you hear comments made by him and he's sitting here and he's doing this, hey, you're sticking with that MFer. All right. Let's move on here. We had Archie Manning on yesterday, and, I started talking to some people up in New York. I'm trying to get Lawrence Taylor on the program, and LT is going to try to find some time for us, and the true LT, not LaDainian Tomlinson either. It's funny. Every time I say LT, LaDainian, I really like him on the NFL Network. I'm like, I don't think so. LaDainian's good, okay, but I'm talking about the guy, my friend Jaws, Ron Jaworski, who's been on the show here too, okay? I think him and LT have a personal and very close relationship. Thank you very much. So, yeah, I'm trying to get Lawrence Taylor on. And so I was talking to some of the Giant people, and they're going to retire Eli Manning's number 10 this coming season. And even Lawrence Taylor said, I'll tell you something, man. When that guy first came into New York, and he was a New York Giant, and how he came into New York, my whole comment was to him, I don't know, man. You really think that this guy from the South is going to come up here to New York, and you really think he's going to fit in, and you really think that he's going to be somebody that's just going to embrace the New York area, and he's going to be somebody? I'll tell you something. That 2004 draft, you couldn't have gotten any better results with those 3 quarterbacks that became faces of their franchise. Think about that 2004 draft. Phillip Rivers, Ben Roethlisberger, and Eli Manning. All 3 of these guys are going to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay? I mean, Phillip was perfect for Southern California. Kid from Alabama, coach's son, organization that, get this, that did things unconventional, always like nitpicking on money. We're always doing one thing to kind of trip up. You heard Arash Markazi just talking about it now a little bit. So, I mean, he was perfect for the Chargers. Never bitched, never moaned. Then on the other aspect, you had Ben Roethlisberger. You couldn't have had a better guy fit in Pittsburgh for the Steelers than Ben Roethlisberger. Ben did absolutely a sensational job there, man. And then you had Eli. Now Eli's going to go into the community. He's going to work with the community. I really love the guy, man. I tell you what, I have more respect now for him, and I do think he's a Hall of Fame quarterback, and I can't wait to see him go into Canton. All right. We're going to take a quick timeout. We're going to catch up with our friend Chris Landry from Landry Football. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid
as long as you face the fear.
and keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Hour 2, National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. I tell everybody right now, if you're an NFL player and you're getting ready for training camp and you're not in shape right now, you're panicking. Okay, you're about a month out from going into training camp right now, and okay, you're running in the middle of the night. You're doing everything you possibly can because you know you got camp coming up on July 27th. With that, we bring in our friend who's going to take a look at some of these rosters. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about this new 12-team playoff that's being proposed by college football and the College Football Playoff Board. We'll get that. But right now, it's our friend Chris Landry from LandryFootball.com. He joins us now here on the National Football Show. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good, Dan. Good to be with you as always. How are you?
All good. You know, I just talked with Arash Markazi in Los Angeles about Matthew Stafford. And, you know, it's funny when you're hearing Sean McVay, you know, oh, my God, I can't believe what I have. Oh, he's the best thing. I tell you, there could be some truth to this in this fact here, Chris. When, you know, I compare him to Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett, when he was in Minneapolis, we all knew he was good. But then when he went to the Celtics, we saw him around really good players, and we were like, wow, he's a Hall of Famer. Could that be kind of what we're watching here a little bit here with Matthew Stafford? Yet to be determined on what he's going to do during the regular season, but he's got 10 games this year that are going to be primetime game. America's going to get a chance finally to see who Matthew Stafford is.
He's got the talent to do it. There's no question about it. He's got the arm talent. I think he's got leadership qualities. Look, I think you have to look at the organization, and you can certainly look at the mistakes. You always have to, as you know, break down the turnovers and the mistakes. So where do they come from? Okay. or you're trailing in games. You can't trust your run game. You can't trust your defense. So, of course, you're going to try to, fling it and quite frankly, make dumb decisions. Is that correctable? Is that something that is just bad habits that it's hard to break? Or, look, that's the only thing we got. And in a lot of cases, that's all it's been. So I think now you're going to see an offense that's built more tailor-made to run the football, condense the formations, and, rely on a better team concept, which the Lions have not had any consistency. They've not been any good because they've lacked any consistency. So I've not seen them with a good running game. That should change. I've not seen them with a good defense. That should be a little bit better, maybe a lot better. And the coaching, I think, the stability of coaching, I think gives them all a better chance. Now, if he doesn't do it here, then you look and say, oh, he's not that guy. But I think he's, to me, the guy that was drafted to be great. He was worthy of where they took him. He's just a really good talent without an organization, and this gives him a new life, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, if we're taking anything from the Ryan Tannehill experience here, and I'm not suggesting in any way that Matthew Stafford's Ryan Tannehill, but I mean, the one-loss record speaks for itself. And like you said, Chris, you just can't put that on the feet of a quarterback. You've got to put that on the feet of the organization and the players as well. So you're all in the same rowboat together here with this stuff here. But now my question would be with the Rams is this. They look like they have a pretty good front 22. But because of all the moves that Les Snead and Kevin Demoff have made, boy, I'll tell you, man, the money, the deferred money they still owe on Clay Matthews Jr., they still owe money on Todd Gurley. I mean, one catastrophic injury, that football team doesn't seem to me like it has a lot of depth. Is that kind of where they are right now because of the moves they've made in the past?
Yes, and they've, in addition to cap difficulty, they have no draft capital. I mean, they've given up all of that, so they've not been able to draft those young guys that can come in and give them snaps and become really good players. They're down the road guys. So, and let's throw in right here the division that they're in. I mean, I could sit here and make the case that they could finish fourth in their division.
Yeah,
the Cardinals are a good team. They've got some issues, but they're good. There's not a bad team in this division. The Niners were bad last year because they got injury bad. The Niners clearly a candidate worse to first. You got the Rams. I mean, I think you got four teams in this division. Seattle is a rock-solid team. I think you can make the case of maybe the Niners are the only team good enough to maybe be Super Bowl good if all things go right. But every team in this division is good. And the worst team in this league is going to be pretty good unless you have a Niners type year with injury. So I think there's a lot of things that's going to be a challenge, which I think they feel like in the Rams, they drafted Jared Goff too high. I mean, they liked him. That's fine. He's not the player that they evaluated. Wasn't as good. And so they think that they're a quarterback away. I mean, they think that their quarterback can kind of turn it. Whereas the Niners have been about, look, we're good around the quarterback and Garoppolo we can win with. And I think they saw that Goff is a guy they can win with, but they had to be so good around him. Now they've got a guy that they feel like can maybe take them over the top. But as you mentioned, is the team good enough? Can they get stops defensively? Can they, they'll focus, and I think they'll run the football pretty well, but do they have enough talent and depth there? I think those are valid questions and concerns.
I remember when we were talking about Kyler Murray coming out of Oklahoma, and I made the comments of this, Chris. I mean, I know it's a different NFL today, and personally, I think the refereeing in the NFL learned a lot from how they legislated hits on Cam Newton. And when they watched how they called penalties on him running up the sidelines for players hitting him or maybe not calling the penalties, I think the mobile quarterback, the refereeing and the officiating in the NFL, we're not going to have that happen to another player or they were just going to pound him down. So to me, it's kind of been like, like a renaissance for the officiating. And that's why I'm seeing this. Kyler Murray, he might be a superstar. He might be able to take some of these hits because it's a different league. I mean, I didn't evaluate him that high. Have you been shocked on how successful he's been, or do you still think that there's a massive amount of room for him yet to improve, and he's going to be one of the elite guys?
I think there's a lot of room that needs to be improved in the pocket. See, I just don't think – I think you're very limited to what you can do with him in the pocket, okay? Look, folks, you move the pocket. Yeah, you can have a lot of improvisation. Yeah, you can throw him in the run game. But to your point is, now let's throw this out. When you start to be a runner, then you're a little bit limited how you can protect those guys. Then he gets crushed, and then you got a problem. So how do you work him in the pocket? He's too short to work in a standard, 3, 5, 7, 7. He's got to get back really quickly in the 9, step drop, and like Drew Brees did. But Drew Brees exploded out of the pocket. This guy is a little bit more of gets back there.
Is he a drifter, Chris?
He's absolutely a drifter, and he's more inclined to, I'm not going to wait too long for that guy. If I don't see it right away, I'm running. And, okay, then you become a runner, and you got to defend that, but only when he can begin to see it quickly in the pocket and deliver it. That's only when he's going to become elite, because when you have to defend both the pass and the run, then you got a problem. Lamar Jackson is great, but tell me that they're running a college option offense. I don't care how you want to call it. That's what it is. So when you can hurt teams from the pocket and you can do the other things, then you got something. The problem is, necessity is the motherhood of invention, right? If you're a great athlete, you're more inclined to say, I'm going to do that. I'm going to run because I'm good at it, and it's easier. And so the Bradys and the Mannings, they don't think about running because they can't run. So they think, I got to get it out quickly. You know that. You played this game. You had your strengths, and you knew what you could do. And maybe, all right, I'm going to have to play my style. You're not going to try to do something somebody else can't do because maybe that's not you, and vice versa. And I think that's how this guy has to really develop a little bit more in the pocket, or else he'll be a shorter version. And he's got better passing skills than Lamar Jackson, but everything can't be an improvisational stuff. I mean, you can do some of that. I mean, Patrick Mahomes does some of that, but Patrick Mahomes can hurt you in the pocket too. So good luck. They got all sorts of weapons. They can run it. They spread you out. You come and rush him in the pocket. He can escape and throw it ridiculously sideways like Elway and across the body, that things you don't want to do, and he can do it. And then also he can get rid of the ball quickly out of the pocket. That's what makes him elite, and that's what makes other guys talented but not elite.
Chris, you mentioned one of my favorite players to watch. I just don't know if I'd want my favorite player to lead my football team, and that's Lamar Jackson. And here's why. And when I say this, it sounds absurd. He's won 80% of ball games. He's led the NFL in touchdown passes. He's rushed for 1,000 yards 2 consecutive years. There's a contract that they're starting to negotiate here. But why do I do this? I'm sorry, man, but he's not elite. Elite quarterbacks can throw you out of trouble. If you're down 21 points, you're going to be able to come back. Like Mahomes, no lead is safe.
Look at the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were down in every flipping game in the playoffs. I mean, they look like they're going to lose every one of those games, and he came back. Baltimore with Jackson can't do that.
So if you're the organization, how do you move forward with that when you know this? When you get into the postseason, Chris, you're going to be behind. You're going to win a lot of regular season games, but once you get to the postseason and you're going against these defenses like we saw with Todd Bowles' defense and those schemes that they were able to do against Aaron Rodgers, who's a complex offense with Matt LaFleur, like you said, that thing's a high school offense they got in Baltimore. How do you sit there and justify giving a guy $40 million when you know in critical situations that guy can't win a Super Bowl?
For me, it would be tough to do because I think you hit it. I think they're going to always be, depending on how good their defense is, they're going to be a really good regular season team. They're going to be in the playoffs every year. They can sell that and then get into the playoffs, but they're going to have the right matchup. They're going to have to keep, one possession games because when they're behind, it's tough. And when you're facing a Kansas City, you could have a lead. You could have a 10-point lead, and the Kansas City comes boom, boom, and all of a sudden you're down 10, and what you're going to do. And then if they can sit on the run game, now you got to stop their run game. You got to stop that. But elite teams, not every team that you play every week in the regular season, but elite playoff teams can do that. I don't see – look, could they go and win a Super Bowl if the team around them is so good that defensively they could just cause problems for everybody, including an elite offense like a Buffalo or Kansas City? It could happen. It's less likely, far less likely for those reasons. So I think it's tough because he is who they built their organization and team around, but I think there's a pretty low ceiling with the guy for the reasons you mentioned. As a passer, he can throw it. He's just not a passer, meaning they don't really work a sophisticated passing game because it's all about the option attack. And how far can they take that? That's the challenge. What can they do offensively to make it tougher to defend and to come from behind a little bit better? Because right now, you're right. They're down 21 points. They've talked about the Chiefs. They're done. That's it. It's over. Playoff team, they're done. It's not going to happen.
Couple last questions for you, Chris, here. Tua Tagovailoa. Why do I keep doing this every single week? And you know what's funny? I had on, Dave Hyde from the Sun Sentinel yesterday, and he was making like a sales pitch, it seemed to me. Man, the guy has great leadership. And every time somebody starts with great leadership, that's when I know they don't have a quarterback. Because to me, when I watch Aaron Rodgers, I see great talent. And then I go from there. I mean, this guy's got great leadership. Well, that's a salesman's pitch. Okay? And And by the way, if you're an NFL quarterback, don't thank me for not robbing a bank. You better have great leadership capabilities when you're in the NFL. That's a given at that position. How do you see this kid? Am I wrong when I do this? I'm not there yet with him.
I'm concerned about his height. I'm concerned about durability. I'm concerned a little bit about confidence because I think, it's a chicken egg thing. I think the guy is incredibly accurate, but I think, when you're able to set your feet and throw it, this guy is really good. I worry a little bit about under pressure, rush pressure I'm talking about, which, this Dolphins team it's looking pretty good. They're getting better and better.
Good roster.
And they really do. It's a good roster. It's not like they're throwing them into the wolves.
Yep.
I'm worried about this year, but I tell you this, I know the kid works really hard. I think he'll be a good decision maker, but I worry a little bit about what we talked about with height. He's not Kyler Murray height, but he's still got to get greater depth to be able to see. And I worry a little bit about, he gets a lot of passes that he's got to alter, in terms of getting it around the defender instead of over it. So I'm a little bit worried there. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I am a little concerned. People have asked me this, which is not what you asked me, and I didn't. But but in an Alabama show that I do, who do I think is going to have a better pro career, Mac Jones or Tua? And I said, I would probably vote for Mac Jones.
I agree. And Chris, let me throw this in here.
Let's hope Tua can get to it because I think that he could be a difference for the Dolphins.
I'm going to tell you the difference in the two, in my opinion. Tell me if you agree. Mac Jones, when he's back in the pocket, and the thing that you say exactly, if Mac doesn't have a passing lane, he does what a Roethlisberger does. He creates passing lanes by moving in the pocket like this. Everybody thinks you have to take up off the field to make passing lanes. The great ones sit back, tap-toe around. Tua doesn't do that in the pocket. He'll take off immediately. The great ones, Chris, they'll sit back there and create passing lanes. I think that's still one fundamental that really is it's a clear difference when I watch him versus Mac Jones.
And Mac sees the field better.
Yeah.
Tua has to work to see and understand coverages better. He was primarily a one-read guy at Alabama most of the time because they did a great job. They get mismatches, and you didn't have to go to secondary or tertiary often. But, he does get the, even when he came in, he looked off the safety edge. He's got to get better at that. The other thing you mentioned, the reason why he doesn't slide, he doesn't see as well. Yep. So he's got to work back and slide because he doesn't see it, meaning he visually can't see it. When, we talk about, visually you can't see it, like you don't have enough height to see it. And then can you see it quick enough? Because in this league, it happens so fast. I mean, it's like a train hitting you when you don't know it's coming. It's just you got to see it. And if you see it, it's not out. Boy, it's too late. It closes so much quicker than it does in college. So I'm a little concerned, but I know the pedigree of the kid, that he'll work at it, and I think he'll be pretty good. I just don't know that he'll ever be that elite guy that they had hoped.
Couple college questions for you.
Yes,
Chris, if I go on the website, LandryFootball.com, tell me, I don't know any of the guys that are going to be the top prospects at the quarterback position. Can you give me 3 names to keep an eyeball on coming up for the college football season?
Yeah, Sam Howell is a guy to look out for. He's a Baker Mayfield type body type and an arrogance. He's at North Carolina, and he started as a true freshman. And, I mean, he came back as a true freshman. First game against South Carolina, they're down 21 points, and he leads them, and he come on my back. And that whole leader, gunslinger, he's a really, really good one. I think he's got a chance. I think Spentler Rattler at Oklahoma is a guy to look out for as well. Those are 2 guys to keep in mind. There's a whole lot of other guys. I think the USC kid is really good, and I think has a chance to go, Keaton Slovis I'm talking about, I'm sorry, is very, very good. And I think has a chance to be a good one. And let's see what JT Daniels does in Georgia if they open up their off. Those are some. There are plenty more. We got them all out there, and we got a breakdown of all the schools, not only who the prospects are for 2022, 23, 24, about a 10,000-page write-up on each team and program in college ball and the NFL. So check that out.
I love that. Final question for you here. This 12-team playoff that we know is going to happen. I was bringing this up the other day to a college scout and to Tom Telesco. I'm sorry still, Chris, if I am in one of these playoff games and say that I'm not in the Final Four and I'm like 6'7", and I'm a top 15 kid and I've got guaranteed $20 million signing bonus and you're not paying me. I know that we saw what the Supreme Court said yesterday, that we were like this. I mean, hey, maybe this is a chance now we start seeing compensation. And even Judge Kavanaugh even said, hey, you're not above the law, the NCAA. I mean, you're going to have to compensate these kids in some way for these bowl games because you're going to be a $70 billion business here with the expansion of this bowl thing. I mean, are we rolling more towards that because of the 12-team playoff that we're going to see kids compensated finally?
Yeah, I think we are. I think everything is changing. So people that don't like it or do like it, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's changing. We're seeing it. And it's all kind of hitting everybody like a bucket of cold water, like, oh, wow, because we've got expansion of the playoffs is on the horizon. We don't know when. It may be 2025. It may be 2023. More on that another time. We've got the name, image, and likeness. That's going to take the, as you know, Dan, the under-the-table payments and put them over the table. So they can't, NCAA can't enforce it now. Good luck in the future. And so I think you see that. I don't know. Maybe some teams will play if they got, that if they got a chance to compete. You may be right. But one thing we do know, man, the bowl games as they were, if you weren't in the playoffs, nobody was playing. I mean, it went from Christian McCaffrey's not playing in the Sun Bowl. Wow, did you hear that? To now, if a player does play, you say, wow, Sileo's playing. You can't believe that. It's like now, and I think that's what it is. Look, I mean, folks, like it, hate it. That's where it's going. More playoffs. It's more inclusion. Now everybody's going to see. I don't know where the name, image, and likeness, how it's going to go, how much, I think there's a lot of things that need to be figured out. There has to be some guardrails. I think the rich are going to get richer, Dan, because the programs that can have the booster money and can do things. I mean, look, people say, well, only the quarterback's going to get the big money. Look, I mean, you think a big-time booster that runs a ABC business is not going to make sure that the linemen are taken care of at the big-time guy. I think that's happening. I think it's getting more and more like pro football, like it or not.
I drove a vet at Miami anyway. Hey, statute of limitations are up.
Hey, the statute of limitations are over, folks.
They're over, man. We're good. All good.
He can come with all the stories.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it as always. Remember, folks, go to LandryFootball.com. Chris has got everything. It's my number one site when I go there for all my information. Chris, thank you, brother.
Thank you, man. Take care, bud. Bye-bye.
You got it. That is my friend Chris Landry breaking it down. We'll take a brief time out. Dave Lapham is going to give us some Bengals football. One of my surprise teams in 2021. We'll hit up with Dave next right here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. It's great catching up with Chris Landry from LandryFootball.com. I predicted this a couple days ago that one of my surprise teams going into the 2021 season was going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And the only guy that I know that I call in Cincinnati is my longtime friend, Dave Lapham, and he joins us now here on the National Football Show. Dave, how you doing, my friend?
Dan, how are you doing? Thanks for the invitation to visit a little bit, sir.
You got it, man. You know, and I say that because last year I got to start it out by doing this, Dave. So I wanted to see Joe Burrow. He made appointment-setting television, and when I watched him, I did this. Wow. And he has a wow factor about him. There's just something special, and there's got to be a lot of optimism going into this season with this quarterback. And most importantly, will he be ready for training camp next month?
Yeah, Dan, that's a great question. I think I would be surprised if he doesn't take the first snap under center of the regular season or shotgun or whatever it may be. As far as preseason is concerned, they'll probably still be ramping him up a little bit. I think he wants to play in a preseason game and check the final box, take a hit, get up and, make sure you're okay kind of thing. But organizationally and with the coaching staff and that sort of thing, I think that's still to be determined. But he says he's 85% there. I think it even looks a little bit better than that. And what he did, typical Joe Burrow, he wants to compete in everything. So he competed to be the best rehab patient they've ever had. And his core strength, his hip strength, his overall body strength is increased dramatically. And he's throwing the ball with much more velocity and hasn't lost a bit of accuracy. So I'm impressed with what I see from him so far. There's no doubt.
And I hate to do this to the young kid, Dave. I say this, and there's just a Brady quality about him that, every single thing that he does, he competes at. Like, I would think even maybe getting to the facility, the first guy there, or, going into the gym and, getting his reps done before someone. I mean, one of those guys, where he's always competing with you. Just talk a little bit about how the team has really embraced him and how he's fit in there in Cincinnati.
You hit it right on the head, Dan. The thing that the comparable to me comparison with Tom Brady is both guys love and appreciate the grind. They know that you just don't show up and play. They know that there's a huge process, to getting ready every single week, every single day, every single practice. And they love that. And Joe Burrow's that way. Man, he can't watch enough tape. He can't ask enough good questions of the coaches. He's really laser focused like Brady. I think that's another similarity. I mean, it is tunnel vision, laser focused to what he needs to do to get ready. And then you compound that with incredible people skills. A leader, I think, has got the natural ability to relate to every and all kinds of people. And I think Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, I think, exemplify that. Joe Burrow has that quality. I mean, he makes everybody feel more important, more special, have to have them to get things done. And I think all great leaders do that. They raise the boat that way, and everybody feels like they're a big part of it when they're around Joe Burrow. It's amazing.
And Dave, what I love what the Bengals did this offseason, they go out, get a familiar wide receiver that he knows from LSU. Then they turn around and go into the offensive line in the NFL draft. They get 3 guys. And if I'm not mistaken, they hired Frank Pollock, the new offensive line coach, this season here. So, I mean, they're doing everything to build around him. So that shows you again, we see what's going on up in Green Bay. There's complaining about Aaron Rodgers, how they're not building around him. But this is one thing that if you're looking at a game plan being built around Joe Burrow, the Bengals are putting this formula together here where they're putting assets around him.
You're exactly right. There was a 50-50 split, maybe even with the coaching staff, from what I hear, and organizational people. Do you go with Penei Sewell? Do you go with Jamar Chase? You make a case either way. Sewell, the best offensive lineman in the draft in a lot of people's eyes to protect Joe Burrow, or a weapon that he had that they combined for 1,780 yards and 21 touchdowns, in 2019, and one won the Fred Biletnikoff Award and every award that a receiver could win. And the other one won the Heisman Trophy. And, it's just they made magic together. So they decided to take the touchdown maker, the guy that can put points on the board, can add up yardage. And watching Chase, man, I'd run every screen known to man that you can run with a wide receiver with him, Dave, because this kid is built like a fullback. He's got some strong legs, man. His lower trunk, his lower quadrant is unbelievably strong, and he runs, with that thickness, he runs a 4.35. So wow. He's going to be, once the ball hands, that's when the fun starts. He's one of those. He's explosive, and he and Joe are already, they've got that mental telepathy that all it takes is a look and they know what each other's thinking, kind of thing, from having played together. They're further along than most rookie receivers would be with their quarterback because of the familiarity of playing together. And what the Bengals offensive coaching staff has done is try to install and instill a lot of familiarity between what they did at LSU and what they're doing here with the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of concepts and routes and that sort of thing. So, and he's a quick study. They're surrounding Joe Burrow with, Joe Mixon's back healthy. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins had a great rookie year. Tyler Boyd, you've got improvements in the offensive line. They did trade down in the second round and still got Jackson Carman, somebody they really, felt highly about, highly regarded him and his abilities in the draft. and they got extra 4th-round picks. In so doing, picked up another offensive lineman with that 4th-round pick, DeAndre Smith, who they think has got a bright future, real long arms, good feet. I think he'll project to be a pretty good tackle in the NFL. So I think they've obviously suffered to get the first pick in the draft and the 5th pick in every round of the draft the last couple of years, but they put the bat on the ball and then uncharacteristically have gone out and spent over $100 million in back-to-back off seasons. They've turned things over. I mean, the only 2 starters left on defense are the 2 guys they'll probably extend this offseason, Sam Hubbard, and Jesse Bates, the 2 leaders of the defense. Other than that, you got 9 new guys. It's like new faces everywhere. And Frank Pollock is big, like you said, bringing him back. Joe Mixon had his best year rushing with Frank Pollock's scheme. And Joe Mixon believes in and loves Frank Pollock, and the feeling's mutual. So, Frank Pollock has had a little bit of a ripple effect on not just the offensive linemen, but the running backs and everybody else that's going to be involved in that running game.
David, sounds to me that the Brown family, they've been influenced by Joe Burrow. And like you said, $100 million in free agency. Hell, the Steelers don't do that because that's something that they don't believe in either, going out and spending money on free agency. And surely the Bengals have been that kind of team where they're not going to spend the money. Then they're getting the assets. And like you say, putting the bat on the ball here by going out and putting the components around Joe Burrow. Has he influenced the organization that much where they feel that they have themselves a franchise guy? Because it has to be, right?
Yeah, I think, I did a podcast with Mike Brown a little bit earlier today. It's called In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, if I could do a little self-plug there. But Mike Brown, I was saying to him, I said, you back in the late 60s, early 70s, and into the 80s, you had a run of quarterbacks. Greg Cook, who was phenomenal. He led the league in passing as a rookie and ripped his shoulder up. Buck Buchanan fell on top of his shoulder and ripped it up, and he was never the same. Half of that rookie year where you led the league in passing, he was playing with a ripped rotator cuff, and back then that was a dramatic injury in the late 60s. And then you go to Kenny Anderson, then you go to Boomer Esiason. I mean, that's 3 pretty good quarterbacks that took you for a good period of time in the course of your franchise. And I
MVPs,
MVPs of the league, and went to Bowl 16 and Super Bowl 23 with those MVP seasons. And 49ers got both the rings, but Bengals got AFC championships. And I said, is Joe Burrow that kind of guy, Mike? And he said, it's still to be determined, but we think that he is, and they're backing it up with putting people around him to accentuate those abilities. So I think they know they've got a window here with a guy like Joe Burrow at quarterback, because they've seen special quarterbacks in the past, and then they've suffered through times when they didn't have that special quarterback, and they feel like they've got one again. So I think there's something to that for sure.
You mentioned the offensive line and all the turnover in the O-line, plus the offensive line coach coming back. It is, am I reading the room right in what you're saying? It's more now just about getting reps, because anytime you put new faces into a position and you have new faces in a position room, Dave, it's more about just getting reps and just going out there and playing. So I would think that the exhibition season is pretty vital. Maybe not so much for Joe until he gets his feet under himself here a little bit, but for the unit itself, just to get reps together. Is that fair?
I think that's very fair, Dan. You understand that, having played the game as long as you did and as well as you did, that you're very codependent on the people around you. You can do your job outstandingly well, and if one guy on either side of you is not, or they're not in the same page from a communication standpoint, it doesn't mean a hill being. So that's vitally important, and I agree with you about that. And the other thing is, the players believe in Frank Pollock's techniques. Frank played in the league himself like 8 or 9 years, so Frank's belief is, I've got things I want to teach from a technique standpoint, but everybody's body's not the same. Some guys are short-waisted and long arms. Other guys are short arms and long-waisted. So, you're not going to – you have to adapt. You have to be flexible and some adaptation, and Frank's really good about that. It's not like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It's like, no matter what, this is what you're going to do. And damn it, I believe in my, technique. He's malleable, and the players really love that, and they really respond to him. So I think that is a factor, and then getting out on the field and repping it. And that's what everybody, I think, around the league's experiencing now. Virtual stuff can take you so far, but man, you got to get in the huddle, look at each other, get up to the line of scrimmage, look at each other, see what the defense is presenting you, make adjustments. And repetition breeds comfort level. You got to be out on a football field to do that. I agree with you 100%.
Two last questions for you here, Dave. The tight end position has become such a major point, and obviously familiar for you, where having played the position. Let me throw this at you here. You see all these Travis Kelce's, Gronkowski changed the position himself. It's so vital to have that position, especially when you're talking about a young quarterback. Where are the Bengals going at that position, and do they have somebody in that hole right there?
Yeah, you make a great point there in question. C.J. Uzomah tore his Achilles very early in the season last year, and he's come along pretty well in both phases. I mean, traditionally the tight end had to be the third tackle in the running game, and then a guy that can catch the run routes and catch the football. A very unique position, and C.J. can do that kind of thing. And Drew Sample is another guy they drafted in the second round a couple of years back. So they feel like they've got some guys. And when you look at it, the tight end position can be a big deal here, because when we're talking about the wideouts, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, you can't double everybody. And if they start, moving, tilting coverage toward the outside of the football field, the tight end in the middle field is going to look like the Eiffel Tower to a young quarterback. They get a feeling of comfort seeing a tight end down there who, if he's got any value, he's going to be bigger than safeties and corners, and he's going to be faster, hopefully, than most linebackers. So hopefully you get a mismatch in the middle of the football field utilizing that tight end, and it'll be something that quarterback can feel real comfortable looking to that position. So I think they feel like they've got some people that can get some things done for them at the tight end position. It could end up being really big if depending on how people tilt coverage during the season.
Finally here, I say this, and I love projects where an organization takes a flyer on a guy and then he turns out to be the guy that you thought he was going to be and you were praying that he would be, and they fit into a community. Joe Mixon, with all the dents in the fender that he had coming out of Oklahoma, it seems to me that all the things have been definitely pushed in the past. The community loves the kid. The organization loves him. He loves the fact that he's a Cincinnati Bengal. That's a really great story, because from where he came from, Dave, this guy was a first-round draft choice. Okay, there was no doubt when he was at OU, he was a first-rounder, but the things that happened to him in the past there definitely stopped that progression, and there was even conversation he may never play again. Just give us the history of how he's come to where he is today from where he was.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. He's a great story. I was doing Big 12 games with Fox around that time frame when Joe had his issues, and believe me, there's three sides to every story in terms of how it happened and why it happened. Now, can you condone the fact that he put his hands on a woman? No, never. But can there be extenuating circumstances that lead to him losing control and doing that? There can be, and there were. And the Bengals, I think, did their due diligence on it and decided, after they checked with everybody that they could check with, that it was worth taking a chance, particularly when he slid to the second round. Like you said, he's a first-round talent that was still there. And I saw him do everything at Oklahoma. Make people miss and run away from him, run them over and run away from him, the football out, let's do all those sorts of things. He was a complete back there, and I think he's given them that type of a scenario here with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think we're going to look. They gave him a big contract, they gave him enough extended money, and I think they're going to utilize him with Giovanni Bernard's departure. It's not like they don't have a third down back, and they do have somebody that they can rotate in there and give Joe some breaks now and then. But I think they're going to use Joe more on third down than they did when Giovanni Bernard was a Cincinnati Bengal. So I think his role may even increase a little bit. And like you said, the community for Joe Wilson, they embraced him and said, we're going to evaluate you on what you're doing here in Cincinnati. And it's a mutual love that's going on between Joe Mixon and the Cincinnati Bengals fan base and Bengal Nation, no doubt.
Hey, man, Dave, I appreciate you stepping in, and I'm going to tell you, they're one of my surprise teams. I think this football team has a chance, and I don't know what that chance is. Well, let me end that with you there. Do you think that this team has a playoff roster? Or is it a green apple on a tree right now, and we're just waiting for it to ripe?
Yeah, it's somewhere in between there. I think, it's like the thing about it, Dan, is that man, the division, Cleveland's getting some Super Bowl buzz. Baltimore's getting Super Bowl buzz. Pittsburgh still, the Ben Roethlisberger era hasn't ended. Mike Tomlin has not had a losing season as a head coach in 14 years with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have the history and tradition of success. You could be a decent football team and go 2-4 in the division, and it's like, damn, that's the thing first is taking care of business in the AFC North, and that's not easy, man. They came knocking. They said, hey, we want to let's go out, let's go play now. Now you're out here with the boys, so it's a challenge. There's no question. Are they building a plan? I think Mike Brown made a great analogy today in the podcast. He said, what I look at it as is there's ingredients have been put together and it's been put in a cake pan. Now the cake's in the oven. Now, is it going to bake properly? When we take the cake out, will it be undercooked, overcooked? What's the cake going to be like? It's in the cooking right now, and some ingredients we blended and put together. We'll have to see what the final product looks like.
Well, for me, I don't care what the cake looks like. I'll just put frosting on it and eat it anyway. Dave, thank you so much for coming aboard. I really appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much for doing it. Thank you, Dave. You bet. That's my friend Dave Lapham there from the Cincinnati Bengals, man. Yeah. Do I look like I've missed any cake meals? All right. We'll reset. You keep it right here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull beef jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back to the National Football Show. Dan Sileo. How we're packed today, huh? As my good friend Jim McKay would say, Big Sil spans the globe. We go all over the NFL. This is not just, a local show here. That's what we're doing here on the National Football Show. We take you to Seattle, down to Miami, up to New England, and over to Arizona, and everywhere in the middle, and also in college. That's what, always been a passion of mine to be able to do something like that. I never really knew how much, the football fan, and today the football fan has become the biggest sports fan in American sports. Okay. Basketball. And, and I'll give them credit. You know what I think? I think the ratings have been going up in the NBA because you know why? You have new stories. Atlanta making it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Hell, I think the last time they were in an Eastern Conference Final, I think the organization was in St. Louis when they went to an Eastern Conference Finals. The Bucks haven't been to an Eastern Conference Finals since '74 when Jabbar was there. I mean, you got so many storylines. The Clippers never been there. And by the way, who would have thought, too, the Clippers make it to the Western Conference Finals without Doc? Yeah, I know my boy's getting roasted in Philly. And, hey, you know what? It's one thing because, when you're the head coach of the Clippers and you get bounced, you're the head coach of the Clippers. But when you're a head coach in one of these sports cities that every franchise matters, Flyers, Rangers, Blackhawks, Bruins, and you get bounced, fans don't look kindly on that, especially when you have expectations. And know this, when you've been feeding people, this guy's great. Hey, we've invested, and you've invested the time and the money and the draft pick in a guy, and all of a sudden you start waffling and you start wobbling on a guy's ability. People in those cities are not stupid. The one thing I opened the show with is that, here, let's just do this, though. If I could just give any advice to the Sixers organization and Daryl Morey, do this, dude. Don't allow the media to keep teaming up on Ben Simmons to drag that guy up and down Broad Street. Don't do that, man, because you're going to lose market value for that kid if you're going to think about moving him. The Eagles got crushed in that because of mismanaging that asset. When you decide to move off of a player, he becomes an asset. He's no longer your player because you don't see him as part of your future. You see him as a building block, which means he's an asset. When the Eagles went out and said, we're going to have a competition that's wide open, you'll never get value for that kid. And they didn't get value. They got a compensation pick where that if the kid ends up becoming a champion in that division, or I think he gets to the AFC title game, then I think it turns into a first rounder. But get this, if it turns into a first round draft choice, you're talking about a football team that's going to be down in the late 20s. Okay? I mean, it's still a first rounder. I get it. Okay? But that's not a first round pick like you want to build your franchise back up with, and that's what Philly needs. Philly doesn't need the 29th pick in the draft. Philly needs the 9th pick in a draft. Okay? Because you're going to have to determine after week 8 whether or not Jalen Hurts is your guy. Here's what's going to go down with that. You're going to look at it and go like this. Will there be knee-jerk reactions like there have been in Philly the last 2 years? Or are you going to be patient? And are you going to sit back and are you going to take the bumps and bruises that are going to come with this experiment that you're going through? And let's not forget something. You got Devontae Smith out there too. Are you going to have this guy set up by a quarterback that can't get him the football in an NFL game? That's also something you got to play into here. If you think that kid's that dynamic, hey, man, hey, there was a part of me that went like this. I don't know, maybe the Eagles should have went for a quarterback in the draft. Just saying. Yeah, but we went and got a guy in the second round. Hey, so what? If I was a general manager on an NFL football team today, I would always draft a quarterback in the draft. Maybe a 5th rounder, maybe a 6th rounder. If I need, maybe a 1st or 2nd or 3rd. I would never in a million years ever pass on an opportunity that maybe I can get a Dak Prescott, a Russell Wilson, or God forbid, a Tom Brady. Remember, those guys were all drafted outside of the 3rd round. Every one of those players were drafted out of the first 3 rounds. Dak was a 4th. Brady was a 6th. I'll take that back. Wilson was a 3rd. Okay? But they didn't really think Russell Wilson was going to go in there and beat that guy Matt Flynn out, who they had given a free agent contract to. You always draft a guy because you never know when you're drafted. Look at what saved Mike Shanahan's ass in Washington? So they get RG3, right? And they give the Rams that bounty of first rounders, which the Rams never really did anything with. And what did Mike Shanahan do? He hedged his bets with doing what? I think it was the 4th round. They got Kirk Cousins, right? Cousins turned out to be the better pro prospect because he hedged his bets. You always hedge your bets. And by the way, why do you think Jalen Hurts was drafted in Philly? He was a safety belt because they couldn't count, just like in San Francisco, the reason Trey Lance has been drafted. You couldn't count on health at the quarterback position. Guys made of paper mache. Every time the guy's playing, he's great. Every time the guy gets hit, he's hurt and he's out for an extended period of time. And that's why in San Francisco, they had to make the move. By the way, I think this is why when you watch Carson Wentz in Indy, I think Carson Wentz is going to really have a great opportunity because he's not going to be relied on to have to throw the ball 35 times in a ball game. He can, but he's not going to have to, especially when you got Jonathan Taylor in the backfield and you got a top 10 offense. Remember, you had Phillip Rivers on that team, and they won 11 ball games last year. So the bar is kind of high, actually. And I actually thought they were a few plays on moving on into the playoffs. They were a pretty good football team, that Colts team last year. Couple more plays here, couple more plays there. That football team could have been in the AFC Championship game. They were good, man. That's a good football team. And Rivers still turned the ball over, and they won 11 ball games. It's the only team coming back that I think that you can make the argument, well, they got a top 10 D and a top 10 O. It's kind of, you know what that team reminds me of? That team reminds me of that World Championship Philadelphia Eagles team. Good old line, Buckner up front on the defensive side of the football. On the other side of the football, they got a top 5 offensive line. That's the same thing they had in Philly that year. They won the Super Bowl. They had the best combination of lines in the league that year. And as they got into the postseason, it became even more evident on what they were doing. They weren't winning ball games because of superstar plays. Now, Foles played his ass off in the conference and in the Super Bowl championship games. He did. Not ever taking that away from the kid. But those lines were the dominant forces in what sold it and what got it across the finish line for the Eagles. Plus, they got luck with injuries on other teams during the playoffs. So it's going to be I can't wait to see the run this year. I just cannot wait to see where we're going this year. All right, real quick on this 12-team playoff. There were some comments made today. You should see the emails that I get from the College Football Playoff Committee. And because Bill Hancock was on our show a couple days ago, I get these emails, and get this, it's not for public viewing. So I get this, and I'll give you guys a little bit of a heads up now. I'm not supposed to, because I'm a top 25. By the way, I'm a top 25 voter for a college football poll each and every single week. And we'll do that we'll probably do that on Mondays. Once the college football season, I got a preseason poll that I got to put out here in a couple of weeks, maybe even a couple of days. I've got to get a poll out for the preseason. It's the AP Power 16. So I'm going to throw that out there probably. Maybe we'll do that next Monday. I think I have until that time where I have to put my top 16 in there. So this new 12-team playoff, there's a lot of conversation going back and forth here. And it is happening. And, Chris Landry was right. I don't believe it's going to happen in 2022, but I do believe it's going to happen in 2023. What they've got to do and what they've decided, and I got to hand it to Notre Dame. I can't believe Notre Dame was the people that did this. Notre Dame has agreed that they'll never be higher than 4th, which means this: they're never going to get a bye, but they're going to have a home game always if they are number 5. So if Notre Dame ends up number 5, they'll get a home game at their place instead of playing in a bowl game, which means a boatload of money to Notre Dame football into NBC. You got to remember, NBC, that contract that they have, is the only reason why Notre Dame is not a conference opponent, because they don't need a conference. They've got a $100 million TV deal with NBC. So this thing is happening. And the amount of money, they got to figure it out. Now combine this with what the Supreme Court ruled the other day. College football, boy, is in a really, really great place. Hey, man, I want to thank my boy Krause. Cal, keep a great job up. Hey, Big Joe, thank you so much. Don't forget, too, if you missed any of the show, you can go over to JAKIB Media channel and you can like it, share it. We implore you to do that. Thank you so much for checking us out. Don't forget, tomorrow, 4 to 6 Eastern time. Until then, see you on the flip.